Floyd Schofield stops Tevin Farmer, and it was very impressive. You know, Kid Austin did his thing. I expected him to win. I didn't expect him to do it like that. I thought there was a chance that he stops Tevin Farmer, but to stop him in the first round, you know, within basically a minute of the fight, you know, getting started, Kid Austin stopped him. So that was crazy to see. He's definitely back into the conversation. All that talk about Kid Austin being scared of Shakur, scared to lose to Shakur in Saudi, you know, I don't think that's as believable anymore. At least that's not the narrative as much, because he just put on a hell of a performance, you know, a few weeks before Shakur's fighting. And I feel like Kid Austin stole the show. You know, everybody was talking about his performance. He had the performance of the night, you know, on that Jake Paul versus Chavez card. And I think Kid Austin deserves some respect, because everybody was talking down about him, saying he was faking, you know, his illness in Saudi. That's why he pulled out of the Shakur fight, and he was actually just scared. But in reality, you know, he puts on a statement performance like this, stops Tevin Farmer in the first round, a fighter that William Zepeda went the distance with 2 times. And ultimately, you know, Kid Austin was able to do it in a single round. He didn't even need the whole first round. He just needed the first half of it to get the job done and stop Tevin Farmer. And Tevin Farmer didn't know what hit him. I feel like, you know, it was very interesting to see Shakur kind of react to it. He said that don't get too hype off of, you know, Tevin Farmer being a little bit careless in the first rounds. You know, these young guys are wild, but, you know, that's the thing. These young guys, these young lions, you don't know what to expect from these guys like Kid Austin. These guys are going to jump on you in the first round. To all the pros, the typical style is to use the first round as a feel-out round, you know, and Kid Austin said, fuck that, let's get after it right now, and it paid off. You know, it paid off taking that risk early on in the fight, and he got the job done, and now everybody's talking about him. He's the talk of the town now. Everybody's talking about Kid Austin. No one's really talking about Shakur. You know, I feel like Gervonta's even talking about, you know, Kid Austin, because Gervonta doesn't even talk about a lot of fighters unless they mean something. You know, he doesn't go on social media to talk about bums, but Gervonta genuinely talked about Kid Austin, saying, like, I'd beat him up, because he knows that, you know, most people were impressed with Kid Austin's performance against Tevin Farmer. You know, to stop him in the first round the way he did was very impressive. At least to me, I thought Kid Austin, you know, performed as best as he possibly could. To get Tevin Farmer out of there in the first round, that was impressive. So much respect to Kid Austin. Hopefully he can put on a similar performance, you know, in his next outing, and he keeps the momentum going, because now he's the talk of the town. He kind of stole the shine away from Shakur Stevenson's, you know, lightweight attraction fight with William Zepeda, because Zepeda took this guy to the distance 2 times, like I said before, and then Kid Austin was able to get Tevin Farmer out of there in 1 round. I mean, it was sad to see, you know, Tevin Farmer go out like that as early as he did, you know, but you get caught, you get caught. Like what Shakur said, you know, these young lions, you know, you can't predict what they're going to do. They're very unpredictable. They're spontaneous in their attack. So you got to be careful and very, you know, very much cautious and on your toes when you're fighting guys, even in the first round, especially if you're fighting a young lion. You know, it's protect yourself at all times. No one agrees to say that, you know, the first round is just a feel-out round, and Kid Austin stepped on the gas. That's what I like to see. That's why I enjoyed the fight so much, was because I was shocked to see, you know, him really take that risk early on. But I knew he had it in him, but for it to pay off the way it did, man, you know, like, good for Kid Austin. I know he was going through a lot. He was very emotional post-fight, because he knows how difficult it was, you know, the mental battle that it you know, takes, and everything he endured through the process of hearing all the hate from the boxing fans saying, you know, you ducked Shakur, you didn't really want that smoke, you guys are clout chasers. They all said that about Kid Austin, but I stayed quiet because I knew that Kid Austin's actually talented, and I feel like this was his performance where he showed everybody, like, yeah, I wasn't messing around. You guys thought I pulled out because I was afraid. No, look what I just did to this dude, Tevin Farmer. Zepeda took this dude the distance 2 times. I stopped him in the first round. What does that say about me? That's what Kid Austin did. So much respect to Kid Austin. Still very much intrigued by that Shakur and Kid Austin matchup, because after what Kid Austin just did, you know, Shakur has to follow that up now. You know, I know Shakur's probably not going to get a knockout. There's a chance he does, because Zepeda does throw a lot, so maybe he opens something up for Shakur to land something crazy. But just taking into account, you know, Shakur's hand health, you know, situation, I feel like there's a good chance that Kid Austin might have outshined Shakur here. So if that's the case, we might have a new situation where this fight gets renegotiated and we could get Kid Austin and Shakur. Still very interested in that fight, but I feel like it should probably take place somewhere in the US, just so, like, I don't know, nothing crazy happens, because some people say, you know, they get sick with the traveling to Saudi and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. But Kid Austin has a hell of a performance against Tevin Farmer, and, you know, stops him in the first round. Very, you know, good night for Kid Austin. His stock definitely rose, and it's on to the next. You know, what's next after stopping a guy in the first round where everybody thought it would be at least somewhat competitive, for him to go out there and smoke Tevin Farmer and wash him the way he did? Very impressive from, you know, Kid Austin. So we'll see what he does next. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next NABS boxing video. Peace.